in the early 90s, the university passed a non-discrimination policy. So as a group, the gay and lesbian faculty staff, which I helped coordinate originally, which was called the Triangle Coalition at that time, decided we were going to see just what that meant and if it meant for any kind of benefits for our partners. And we pressed the issue, and we were able to get things like library passes and rec center passes and I think tickets to sporting events. But this was back in the early 90s, and we were trying to press for domestic partner benefits and recognition of domestic partners. So that's how it all began. We went to the president, and the president handed it off to the provost and asked us to form a task force to assess what the needs of the LGBT community at SIU was at that time. And we divided into a number of different kinds of subcommittees. There was a policy committee on what kinds of policies the university needed to pursue, consider. There was a resource center committee, or a services committee, which ultimately recommended the resource center. I wasn't on that subcommittee. I was on the policy committee, but their number one recommendation at that time was that SIU, like hundreds of other schools across the country, needed to have a resource center that was dedicated specifically to meeting the needs of LGBT faculty, staff, and students. The original intention of the Resource Center was to provide direct services to faculty, staff, and students by being visible, by being a presence on campus. And we did a lot with providing an environment for faculty and staff and working with departments to help recruit. Because certainly one of the things, and this occurred even before the Resource Center, when someone considered taking a job at SIU, if they were gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender, one of their considerations was, am I going to be comfortable living in a rural, somewhat remote part of the country? And so we played a very active role in making sure that in recruiting, that we could make sure that people felt connected right away.
I'm Wendy Weinhold, and my position at the center is as the coordinator of the LGBTQ Resource Center. The vision and goals of the center are primarily about supporting students, staff, faculty, and then community members from the wider Southern Illinois region in terms of outreach, student support, learning opportunities, and advocacy. The LGBTQ Resource Center provides a lot of different kinds of resources for students, staff, and faculty and our community members. I would say one of the most important things that may be a less visible thing for the whole campus community is that we are a safe space that the LGBT community can call home on SIU's campus and in the Carbondale community and the wider Southern Illinois community. So in that way, we provide a really important resource, and we're tremendous advocates. We also have a learning library and a video library, and that goes in part with our new learning laboratory activity room. So we're now 3 rooms to the center, and we have regular movie nights. We have a knitting circle that meets on Wednesdays at noon. We do a variety of meetings. Our Queer Mentors group meets there on Tuesdays. There's going to be all kinds of activities held there during LGBTQ Awareness Week in April. So we provide all kinds of different resources. The student workers are absolutely essential to the LGBTQ Resource Center. They are, in fact, the lifeblood and the essential characteristic of the Resource Center. I'm just half-time. While I'm the administrator and I'm the signature on many of the forms and I do all that kind of paperwork, kind of process stuff, the student employees and the graduate assistants are really the face to the Resource Center.
So a lot of my job is, I'm like Wendy's assistant, I'm her grad assistant, you know. So I do things like make promotional materials, plan events, do paperwork, things like that. And then I'm also the LGBTQ Resource Center's connection to SRN, like I attend their meetings and stuff like that.
What I do at the center, I'm an undergraduate student worker, so I answer phone calls, emails. I am a welcoming, smiling face for anyone who stops by who needs resources. I think the initial outreach that we have is we table at new student orientation, and so that's one of the first things that queer students are going to see coming onto campus if they attend orientation. They will see us at the event. And then after that we have safe zones, and then we also have...
We always have a welcome back picnic, and I was like, I love that, because this year it was really cool. We planted 50 spider plants and grew them like all summer, and gave them out to everybody, and it was really cool because like spider plants like have babies, and it was like, I know it's like this so cheesy.
He loves plants.
I do. I'm a big plant person. History Month, like that's a huge thing for us. We pretty well do a lot of the planning and programming for LGBTQ History Month.
And we also have Awareness Week, which is pretty important. We have a number of campaigns, the Educate Before You Hate campaign, which Wendy and I came up with. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some issues. I know that the Resource Center has been trying to like help resolve some of the issues, like creating gender neutral bathrooms for trans people. We definitely need more of that on campus. And you know,
I don't think we have as many issues as some other campuses might have, particularly when it comes to lesbian and gay identified people. But I think when it comes to gender issues, transgender, trans star, whatever you want to call that, there are a number of issues that I've seen personally, like in my own experiences and the experiences of my friends. Like Landon just said, the bathrooms, we don't have gender neutral bathrooms. The rec center, I think, is working on a gender neutral changing room. Is that kind of what it is? And so I think things are getting better, but I think there's a lot of work to do, especially for trans people in our community.
Another issue for trans people is like getting their name legally changed. And I know that the center helps students do that, but the university doesn't always recognize it. Or the student has to constantly go, like every semester, go through the name change.
Yeah, we send so many emails out at the beginning of each semester saying your student XYZ, uses this preferred name and these preferred pronouns. Every semester we send those out.
And if they don't have like all the legal paperwork, process and all that, by the time they graduate, they get their birth name on their certificate, which isn't really like a big congratulations, like good job on graduating. It's kind of like, oh, thanks for not actually recognizing me as a person and just me being a number and a piece of paper. So it's unfortunate.
Do you feel SIU as a whole has enough LGBT activities for SIU students?
I think we have a lot of LGB activities. I don't think the T is as included as it should be in these activities, and that's sort of my take on that. I think like SRN certainly caters to lesbian and gay and sometimes bisexual people.
Yeah, that's true. And interestingly enough, like through working at the center, I kind of learned that, or came to realize that, right? Because I didn't realize like my privilege until working here and talking with people of varied like identities and things like that. And so that's another important function of the center, is to educate like the leaders of the community, and so now I can talk about things like before I had no idea, and looking back on it I was like really insensitive. So I don't know, it helps change the lives of the student employees too.
Yeah. That's a really good question, because coming out is such a privileged concept, and we've had a lot of conversations at the center about like who has the privilege of coming out, and the safety you need to come out is required to do that. So I don't know if it's ever safe, but I think it's certainly safer for some people to come out. Like it might be easier for us in this room to come out, but it might be harder for someone who is working class or
maybe somebody who's like very masculine, straight acting male, like maybe because of societal pressures on him, like maybe he wouldn't feel like he would ever be able to come out.
Yeah, it's a huge problem in my opinion. We were moved in early spring 2010 from an accessible location that was right next to an elevator in the B wing, and now the only way you can get to the center is through a short flight of stairs, which many people can handle, and some people who either have some sort of walking disability or in a wheelchair or something, or sprain their ankle, they can't make it up to the stairs. So that means that we are not accessible for part of our community who is especially underserved at SIU. And I think that's a big problem, and that's something that should be changed. Like personally, whenever this happened, I started an advocacy campaign to try to move us back to another office that was accessible. And I spoke with Linda McCabe-Smith, and there was no way that we were going to move back to an accessible location. I know that that's changed a lot since then, though, and I'm not as sure on the details. So.
I think it's kind of a slap in the face that we are the Center for Inclusive Excellence, and we're not inclusive to everyone. That's irony at its best, I guess, or worst.
Yeah, and it's not like the Center for Inclusive Excellence's fault, right? Like it's like we want to have that space. It's not our choice. It's just that isn't given to us. If anyone who is ever unable to physically reach our office, we gladly meet with them in another space. We have our library is online, so if they want to look at our library page on librarything.com, then they can look through the books there and they can tell us what they want. We'll bring it to them. We offer safe zone trainings to anyone on campus who is interested in being an ally to the LGBTQ community, and that includes people in the community as well, because we're all allies to each other. It is very comprehensive. It provides us with sort of a dictionary of terms so that we can better understand the proper language to use in situations. It's helpful in crisis intervention.
Okay, so after you complete the Safe Zone training, you get a Safe Zone placard, and this is really important because it's probably one of the ways we're most visible on campus, because the center trains a large number of people every year on how to be allies, and this is a way they can display that they've been through the training, and it could really make a LGBTQ person feel a lot more comfortable on campus by seeing these everywhere. And then also on the back of the Safe Zone placards is just a list of resources on campus and in the community, in case somebody were ever to need them.
I think that Saluki Rainbow Network has been around for a long, long time. They've been here longer than we have. I feel that although resources would be severely limited for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and queer people, I think that especially trans individuals would have a much harder time at SIU because they would not have someone advocating for them, especially, sending out those letters to their professors at the beginning of the semester. That's just one example. That wouldn't be happening at all. There would be no one there to help them. And that, to me, is really scary to think about. So,
I think that having an LGBTQ resource center is kind of affirming for LGBTQ students, even if they don't access the resources. just to know it's there is important, and it's also kind of a good channel just for like centralization for the LGBTQ community. You know, like providing programming for History Month, for instance. Like, it's nice that, you know, it can kind of be managed by the LGBTQ Resource Center with the help of other departments and stuff, but it's nice to have that central location. So
yeah, and if those programs aren't provided, there are a couple other resources on campus, but if there's no one hosting like welcome picnics or Awareness Week or History Month, then how are queer people going to find each other? The sense of loneliness that you get whenever you don't feel that anyone else is like you. And I'm sure all of us in this room have experienced that when it comes to sexuality and gender, probably. That is a very isolating experience, and that puts you at risk for a lot of things in the future.